after a relatively strong customer fan reaction for the first volume of Young Avengers, we've got the second version with Kieron Gillen, Jamie McKelvie, and this is a very different take on the Avengers. It's if you've read, and here's where if you've read Kieron Gillen's phonogram, I think this whole thing makes a whole lot more sense to you. If you haven't read it, it probably is a little bit jarring. It's definitely a different take on the team and who's there. And so I think people's dislike kind of really hinges on that. But let's get into it. Hey everybody, this is Perch. Kieron Gillen is I want to say an acquired taste because I think he's got a style and he does a certain thing with his books, and he is it's he definitely is a music lover, so music always plays a big piece into what he does. But if you read The Wicked and Divine, if you read Phonogram, and then Young Avengers, you get kind of a nice set here. At the time, of course, Kieron Gillen was doing things for the Star Wars universe. He was doing Iron Man. He had a couple other irons in the fire doing stuff for X-Men, but Young Avengers is probably, I would say, for Marvel, the most true to him, to what he did. Jamie McKelvie is an ongoing collaborator of his, so when the two work together, it always works out pretty well. You sense some cohesion. Whether you like the issue or do not like the issue, it's definitely a connection. So we open right up to Kate Bishop, and she's in another room. She's had some level of she's with somebody. Who is it? And then she is, wanting to go, to breakfast. Who is this guy? Who's this guy I just slept with? And she realizes she's up in space. And this is how we're introducing in Nov-Var, who had kind of a relationship, sort of semi kind of going on in the Avengers that's kind of been dismissed here. But anyway, so he is rocking out. He's got some music. He's got his abs, and he is having a good time with with this new relationship. This is everything I could have ever hoped for. Kate Bishop is somewhat happy in this relationship, I guess. So they're hanging out in space and listening to records. And then suddenly the Skrulls attack. So of course the Skrulls attack. It says Kate Bishop, and Nov-Var leaps into action with his with super guns. Now, if you remember the Grant Morrison Nov-Var Marvel Boy, that also helps a little bit in terms of what's going on. But before we get too far, we moved right into New York. So there's a giant space battle. Pretty nifty panel work, by the way, that's done there. So, but back in New York, we've got Spider-Man interrupting a robbery, and he is shot. And then they're like, "Oh, he killed Spider-Man," and then he immediately, scrolls out. So to speak, it's Hulkling, who is basically helping save the day. As I recall, this was done. This is post-Secret Invasion, so that them outplaying superhero, they've kind of been shut down, and that leads to a nice argument with Wiccan. I think he's Wiccan at this point. But anyway, Billy is arguing, saying, "Hey, you've got parents." This is setting up kind of the drama of teen angst, that they're heroes, but they can't really hero out anymore, and plus they don't have parents, and they're in a relatively normal relationship. We're talking about family. We're talking about how it all works, and they say, "Oh, we're in love," and so they to share a kiss, and it's a relatively healthy relationship between Billy and Teddy. I would say, by the way, as a brief aside, as comic books work to get more representation going on, and while these characters sometimes feel like they're getting inserted into things, there's two gay couples that I've always felt work reasonably well in comics. And one is Billy and Teddy. I think the original kind of lead up in Young Avengers with Heinberg, and then here with Gillen, it feels like a normal relationship. It feels like they're dealing with it well. The other is Midnighter and Apollo over in Wildstorm DC. That one also felt like you just had two heroes. They're gay. They're doing their thing, and it didn't feel abnormal. A lot of when I say abnormal, I don't mean that they're gay. I mean the writing. The writing sometimes feels very clunky. Like the people who are writing gay relationships are doing so with like a hand tied behind their back and kind of under duress, and they don't really know what they're doing. So it's this weird kind of timid plus in your face simultaneous. It's a very strange mix that often it gets into. But here I think Teddy and Billy, their relationship feels nicely organic. It feels normal. Same thing with Apollo and Midnighter. It just feels like, here's two heroes doing their thing, which to me is the best representation. If you're going to do representation, this is the way to do it. But anyway, so Billy, kind of knowing that his his boyfriend is basically having issues with not having parents. Where does he live? Kind of this trap. So he goes to try and solve the problem and look into all the different worlds to see if he can kind of fix it. Then we cut away to Kid Loki. So Kid Loki is hanging out in a diner, and he's doing something. He's having food, is what he's doing. But anyway, there's some issue that is going on, and he knows that Wiccan is potentially going to create some problems. And he runs right into America Chavez. She's kind of patrolling. This was an America Chavez long before she was defined in her solo book or some of the other pieces. She's more of a blank slate at this point. She'd come off of, and I should remember, there was the brief limited series that was spinning out of Dark Reign that introduced her. But here we're going to get a little bit more about her and what she can do. So the two of them have a bit of a fight, and we see them on equal footing. America Chavez is more of a brawler. She's able to do stuff. Loki is a sneaky trickster, so he's able to get some other things going as well. Meanwhile, Billy, who's searching through different realities and everything else, he realizes that he's maybe figured out something, can find a needle in a haystack to try and get Teddy, his boyfriend, some parents. Up on the roof, we see that Teddy kind of runs in, finds the Loki America Chavez fight, but he's asked to come downstairs. And Billy says by browsing dimensions, he found his mom and pulled her out before she was killed. And so this is, basically the parents are now meeting. So Teddy's, mom that was pulled out of a dimension. It's a wonderful reunion type moment. But as we quickly see, she gets involved with Billy's parents, saying, "Hey, she's not happy. He's in a relationship. He's far too young for romance. He should be thinking of studies." And the parents are like, "What's going on? Why are you up to? Why are you against this relationship?" And she gets some flesh goo out and kind of, splatters over the parents and seemingly kind of absorbs them. You see them dripping down onto the floor, which doesn't sound good. But anyway, this sets up a relatively tight run here of the comic. It gets into kind of parents and overprotectionism and kind of this wacky angst. This is definitely different. The first Young Avengers series was all about kind of this legacy and these team members trying to find themselves, a lot about kind of stature and what she would do and everything else. This issue about Young Avengers is much more, like I said, if you read Phonogram, this will feel right at home to you. It's very much a kind of evaluation of kind of going, coming of age story, teens and how that all comes through. It's about being a teenager. So this one is definitely more trying to tap into that feel, kind of the fights you have with your parents, with your friends, with where you belong in the world. And so the team that's been assembled here, particularly with Nov-Var, a little bit Kate Bishop, Hulkling and Wiccan, America Chavez just does not get as much to do as you would expect. Kid Loki being kind of the connective thread between all of them. It's about kind of finding out who they are and coming of age. So it's a very different story. This series historically, there are a lot of people who really were bothered by it, and I think part of that's legitimate. The first volume of Young Avengers had a definite point to a definite theme that it was going for. This is definitely something different. So the problem is when Marvel relaunches things, you kind of expect that it's not it's a sequel or it's in the same genre or same universe, and that's not what happens here. It's a jump. You definitely get a very different tone of book, a different feel. It's very, very different of what you have. And so that it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and I think they could never look past that to the fact that it was a very different story. The other bit, kind of right at the end, the writer reveals, America Chavez is lesbian. Billy and Teddy are gay. Loki is, gender fluid and turns into different, male, female, all kinds of different things. Nov-Var is as well. He can come and go, and he's bi. And Kate Bishop is left there at the end. There's a scene at the end where she's like, "Am I the only straight person on this team?" And America Chavez is like, "I don't know about that." And yeah, I know you're curious. And I think that's the panel that everybody always pulls out, which is kind of a shame because it's not the purpose of the whole comic. I think if that's the only thing you're looking at, then I think you've missed kind of the whole point of the series. But it's not for everyone. Like I said, this is a teen coming of age thing with the Avengers label, and it does a decent job of fleshing out some of the characters. Like I said, I do think that Billy and Teddy is a reasonably, it's a good gay written couple, gay written to be a gay couple. They're a good gay couple in comics. It does it well. And I think there's a template here that other comics should try and figure out and go with. So if they're going to go for representation, you would do it well. I think is the whole point. But anyway, very, very, very different. So as Kieron Gillen says at the end, the first Young Avengers is about being 16. This volume of Young Avengers is about being 18 and how profound that is. And I think that's well stated, although the first Young Avengers was not really about being 16. It was about, like I said, about legacy, about some of these other elements. This one is definitely about being 18 and what that means, kind of the coming into your own and all the rest. So some interesting stuff. What did you think? Did you like this comic? Did you hate it? This comic was polarizing. People either loved it or hated it. It seemed like there was very little tolerance for anything in the middle, and that was interesting too. But leave me your comments below. Let me know what you think. Did it ruin your childhood? I don't know. Let me know. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. Introduced to a friend. Follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.